to want
Bag milk. Bag milk. Bag milk. Oh, I swear. Oh, bag milk. And I'm hungry like bag milk.
All right. Rough start last night, Bag Milk, but they made it work. I think they all have to pat old Skinner on the helmet and maybe buy a round of drinks for the next week or so. But a typical sort of game for them over the last week or so, couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the classic. That's the Steve Miller take the money and run kind of game a little bit. It was, first two periods were ugly. They just were. They got outshot 23-14 or something like that. They looked sloppy. The giveaways were ridiculous.
Couldn't win any puck battles, like none.
None. And thankfully, Stu has been so dialed in over, the last month and a bit that he covered up a lot of mistakes. The fact that the Oilers had that game tied going into the third period, I had tweeted something at some point. I was just like, man, first 40 minutes were rough, but they're still in the mix to keep this heater going if they can win one period. And Stu gave them the opportunity to do that, and then in the third they looked much, much better. But there was a rough start last night.
And with that, extended the streak to 14 games. Oddly enough, against the Blue Jackets, who were the last team to do 14 game win streak. But 14 games in a row. What a heater!
Yes, and it's wild that we just passed the midway point of the season, because I feel like when we've been doing this segment all year long, this whole year has just been a roller coaster. I never expected this. The way the October, November went, then to have everything turn around. Like Chris Knobloch, all he does is win right now. It's wild to watch this. They're finding ways to win games that they probably shouldn't, and they're winning games outright that they definitely should, and it's just been a wild ride, a wild ride. Now they're extending the Canadian win streak record. The actual record, I think, is 18 games is in sight, potentially. They've got 2 more games in January against Chicago and Nashville, both beatable teams, in my opinion, if they play up to their standards. So they could have a perfect month of January, in theory. So,
wow,
just a wild year.
I was texting with a friend of mine last night. He sent me a note. He said, "Do you have time to talk?" And I sent him a picture of my TV screen. And I said, "You may not know this, but the Oilers are on a bit of a roll here right now, and and so no, I'm not talking." I said, "And you probably don't know about this because he's from Toronto. I'm guessing that the Toronto Sports Network hasn't reported the streak in Edmonton yet, and they're still talking about Nylander's 13th assist."
Yeah, I mean, well, the Leafs are 5-4-1 in their last 10. The Oilers are absolutely rolling, but if you look at TSN, they'd probably be the third or fourth slot on the main page. So that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
But we'll just take it.
I'm okay with it.
Keep running away with it, and we'll just get the Oilers back to being Canada's best team, as they always should have been.
Yeah, but it's interesting, though, just hearing you talk about it. The way you're presenting it is kind of the way I feel about it. Even in that exchange, in that text exchange, I was like, better back off a little bit, because everybody that I know that's an Oilers fan right now, with the exception of a couple of really hardcore fans, are being careful about their expectations. And it's funny because we're on a 14-game win streak. We've gone from the bottom 5 of the league,
looking horrible,
to outside of the top 5 teams in the league in less than half the season. That's unheard of. What they're doing right now is kind of remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, the math is going to be butchered here a little bit, but in December, there was something like the Oilers were 14 points back of Los Angeles or something, and after last night, they're 2 points up with the game at hand. They're only 7 back of Vegas with 5 games in hand on Vegas. So, there's a lot of things going right for the Oilers right now. They obviously got to keep it going, and they may never lose again, but it's been unbelievable to watch the climb.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
And so Corey Perry's not going to play against Chicago, right? He's going to make his debut Saturday. That's right.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there any talk about where he's going to play? He's been practicing with the team, right? So has he been do they know where they're going to slot him in yet?
chances are, like, and I'm just guessing that it's probably going to be on the third line on the right wing to start. I mean, do you really want to tweak too much with the top two lines that are just absolutely steamrolling people right now? I don't know that you do. So I'm guessing he's probably going to start there. What's going to be interesting is to see who kind of comes out for Corey Perry. That's kind of an interesting thing. Is it
they sent Ernie down, didn't they, today?
They did send Ernie down. But like when you look at the roster last night, Dylan Holloway came back up and he looked pretty good, scored a goal last night. So who comes out? Is it going to be Matthias Janmark? Is it going to be Connor Brown? Is Sam Gagner come out? Yet Sam Gagner's scored the winner against Calgary. He's on pace for 20 goals somehow, despite playing less than 11 minutes a night. So that's what I'm most interested to see, is where they kind of slot him in and who comes out, because the team's rolling right now. But Corey Perry is certainly going to be an upgrade on someone, I think. I just don't know who that is right now.
I have some advice for the team, and I know that entire organization listens.
Yeah, they are listening
intently for this segment every week to hear what they need to do in the next game. But here's what I would do: sit Corey Perry, play Connor Brown. As soon as he scores, pull him. Get him out of there.
We're kind of looking at a thing where you go, okay, Corey Perry, he had a pretty reasonable run. He was over a half a point per game in Chicago before everything went sideways. But like, who scores first? Is it going to be Corey Perry or Connor Brown or Cody Ceci? We've got three guys now as Oilers with no goals. I mean, Corey Perry's got goals in the season, but none as an Oiler. Who gets one first? That's what I want to know. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be Corey Perry.
Yeah. Yeah. One more thing quickly, and then we'll let you go. I don't know if you saw this, but Anson Carter, who is on the Canucks broadcasts, is kind of getting a little bit of heat for a comment that he made when somebody said, who's got the better chance of winning the Stanley Cup in the Pacific Division? And he said, instead of his Canucks team, he said the Oilers. And I guess the fan base down there is kind of lighting him up. And the Canucks, speaking of heaters, they're on a heater right now.
They're absolutely on a heater. I think that's hilarious. Anson Carter, he played for both franchises.
Yeah.
So I find that to be interesting. You know what, though? He's right. Sorry, Vancouver. Stop whining about it. You've had a good regular season run. Your analytics are off the charts and probably due to regress here at some point. But you know what? He's right. And for all the people in Vancouver that are upset about it, stop whining. No one cares about you. So just kind of get over it.
It's a good way to wrap up.
That's the important thing to say.
BaggedMilk, Oilers Nation. Again, thank you for your time, my friend.
The Locker Room for Arden Roof Systems. Weekday mornings on 95.7 Cruise FM.